Greetings from India, the living laboratory of languages and translations. I'm particularly happy to present to you my talk on curse of dialects and the predicament of the indigene. Now, I am talking about 5 curses. First of all, the curse of not being able to write is the biggest curse. There has been, of course, thousands of years of oral history of the indigene. But the world of indigene does not know what it is missing out by not being able to write. As members of many unwritten communities, we have begun to understand now how painful it could be. We realize that not being able to express one's own feelings or commands or wishes expressed graphically will have no value in a material world. And therefore, it is very important to be able to write to overcome the curse of not being able to write. Because otherwise, we are losing out on the number game. Coupled with the curse of oral C, I can call it curse of oral C, there is this danger of disappearance of the smaller speech varieties. And I'm very worried about the Pagel's predictions or the Crystal's predictions of what happens in 2050 when 90% of the oral speeches or smaller languages die out. Now this, of course, has been the ills of development. I can understand the death of a speaker, but wiping off of the entire culture is something which is very painful. And we know that even members of the indigenous speech communities, only the elderly people are able to speak in the language. Of course, we are aware of the red alert of the IUCN, the International Union for Conservation of Nature and Natural Resources, that among mammals and birds and fishes, there is a lot of chance of varieties getting extinct. Now, MP Lewis has told us that a large number of human languages are already extinct. Many of them are going to become extinct very soon. So what do we do actually when we face this threat? Can translation help? That's my question. Now, in the past, writing has been a technique which was arresting the disappearance of speech. As you all know, there is this Hocketian curse which he talks about rapid fading, that human speech varieties are ones that fade very easily, very rapidly, once spoken. So man's attempt was, through writing, man's attempt was to record whatever is spoken. What was scrolled down, of course, was only an image. Now, in the past, what happened is retelling of stories, retelling of tales, of oral texts added value to the text records. Now, our aesthetic inclinations are such that we are getting into drawings and paintings of what we felt like. However, there has been a millennium of oral C for our smaller languages. We sang songs, we recited poems from memory, we passed them down, these treasures, from one generation to the other generation. But somehow writing emerged as a technology to arrest this decay and disappearance. So I would argue that writing has somehow been a very important way of overcoming this curse. The second curse is groundedness. What do I mean by groundedness? You have to worry about where you're speaking, to whom you're speaking, face to face. So you are actually limited by your time and space considerations. But now, thanks to telecommunication and internet, man has learned to communicate across time and space. So initially, one would do simultaneous interpretations as one sang, for the benefit of the listeners from another world. But later on, it was a big problem because that is something which is missing in our attempt to overcome the groundedness. Then the curse of iconicity is also another curse. And there are unwritten languages of the world which will remain tied to the text. And what is scrolled down is only a derivative thing. It's only a translative text. So, we know about the word transcript is therefore, we use the word transcript, we talk about transliteration, which stands for going across. So we are trying to somehow go across from the iconicity to the actual meat of the text, actual content of the text. The fourth curse is the ambiguity, curse of ambiguity, curse of brevity, I can call them. Now, writings have this burden of both hiding and expressing our sentiments. Now, as students of translation, we know that once something is spoken, once something is recorded, that is open to numerous interpretations, just as images, painted images, literature are. Our writing also practices brevity. In oral communication, quite often we speak so much, but when somebody writes them down, it's a very short sentence. So therefore, how do we actually not lose the elaboration of the oral? See, that's the question for the indigenous language text and translation. This is a very important point. Then there's of course curse of historicizing. That is, it's only those who are writing, who are written, they attract the attention of the historians, of the archaeologists.
It's 6 o'clock.
And I think this is very crucial that the second generation and third generation migrants lose their language to understand that. Otherwise, major languages have been acting as killer languages for the smaller communities. And on the International Translation Day, we need to pledge to give back some bit of the lost honor by way of translating from these oral speech communities, indigenous speech communities, into the major languages of the world. One can ask me, what exactly do we do if we do not make any attempt to arrest this decay and disappearance? Long years of neglect and an overlooking of the rights of the indigenous speech communities, they can actually dislocate a large number of people. Now, we know that demographers or economists or development planners or social engineers, they will tell us that disappearance of or displacement of one group or the other is a natural phenomenon. It's bound to happen. But unplanned and untimely displacement of people from the indigenous speech communities, just because we are building large dams or because we are trying to develop huge townships, we are trying to erase the forests, that can be very painful. And with that displacement, their language will also go away. Now, how do we recover that? I think translation is one way of recovering that. And if we do not arrest this displacement, what happens? This is a question that will come up. I think the first thing is that there is marginalization of the speech form. And then there is increased mortality rate. We also see that there is a chance of morbidity. There will be terrible amount of food insecurity, breakdown of values in those communities. Families will be split and there will be complete disorganization of societies. With this, there will be loss of their languages. And on the way to the loss, there is this pidginization of their languages. They will be mixed. Now, how do we actually belong to the growth. How do we tell the story of growth? The Linguistic Society of America has created a campaign to educate the members of the US Senate, US Congress, about the benefits of preserving the Native American languages. Now, India too, government has taken number of steps by setting up special projects or special centers for endangered languages to arrest this change, because we remember the warning of Levi-Strauss of 1952 that the diversity of cultures is behind us, before us, and around us. The only demand we can make of it is that it takes the form that each one makes a contribution to the utmost generosity of the other people. And I think this is very crucial, that on the International Translation Day, we decide that we will do more and more careful and empathetic translation from the indigenous languages texts, oral texts, into the major languages, and build a bridge between these two language groups, the indigenous speech communities and the speech communities which dominate the world. I think that is something which will be a great contribution from the UNESCO's point of view. Thank you.